Everyone loves the first day of school, right? New year, new classes, new friends. It's a day full of potential and hope. But I like the first day for a different reason. You see, I have a power, a strange one. When I look at people, I can sense an aura around them. The color is based on how much time the person has left on earth. Mostly everyone I meet around my age is surrounded by a solid green hue, which means they have plenty of time left. A fair amount of them have an yellow-orange tinge to their auras, which marks a car crash, an accident, or a painful tragedy. Anything that takes people before their time. Things turn scary when the auras venture into the red end of the spectrum. Every now and then, I see someone who is basically a walking spotlight. Those are the ones that get murdered. Those are the ones that kill themselves. Nasty, gruesome deaths. It is such a rush to see them and know that their time is numbered. With that in mind, I always get to class very early so I can scout out my classmates' fates. The first kid who walked in was basically radiating red. I chuckled to myself, "Too damn bad, bro. You've got it bad." But as people kept walking in, they all had the same intense glow. Blood red. I accidentally turned to the window and caught my reflection. My aura was tinted. My aura was tinted red, rose red. I was too stunned to move. And then our professor walked inside the class and locked the door with a click. His aura was a sickening shade of green. We lived in an old farmhouse. It was set in a quiet countryscape. My parents worked, usually late into the nights, so it was mostly me and my sister. We shared a single room, and our favorite pastime was exploring the house. We knew every nook and corner. And we also knew of the spirit that lived there. It was our little secret. We were very fond of the spirit. She was caring and tender. Sometimes, when we woke up in the morning, we would find glasses beside our bed. She would leave us milk or water so we don't get thirsty during the night. So we decided to call her Mother. Mother was always there. Even when my sister and I played in the living room, she was there. An old wooden chair would start moving as we played, slowly creaking towards the middle of the room. We used to put that chair back, feeling sad for her. She seemed to be really wanting to speak to us, to play with us. But my compassion turned to dread a couple of weeks later. When I found an old scrap of newspaper in the local library. It had a picture of our house, and as I read on, I felt a chill seeping in. The house was earlier owned by a widow. After her husband's death, she was distraught, and so she had killed her two children by poisoning their milk. And then she had hung herself, standing on top of that same chair, right in the middle of the living room. When I was 3, my parents moved us into a new neighborhood. The house was nice, but kind of old. In fact, the entire neighborhood was an old 50s tract home area, so it had a pretty varied group of creepy people living in it. As soon as we moved in, my dad started noticing things with me. Weird things. He would hear me giggling and laughing in my room. And whenever he went in and asked what was so funny, I would tell him that the small kids were being so funny. He would also come to wake me up and find me curled up in the closet, the deep, dark closet in my room. This happened over and over again, but my parents did not think much about it because you see, I was a pretty imaginative kid. The thing that troubled them the most was that I flat out refused to go anywhere near the front door. I would scream and yell and cry until one of my parents carried me in and out of the house. See, when you walked in the front door, to your left, there would be a wall about 4 feet high and 3 feet long, just a room divider. But I never wanted to touch it or even be near it. After we had lived there for a few months, my dad started making some renovations. Among them was demolishing that scary wall. My brother and I were sent off to my grandparents so that we wouldn't be underfoot. However, we did not end up going home for a week. When my dad knocked that wall down, he had to call the police. Inside that brick wall were bones. Bones that turned out to be from children. The cops never did figure out who put them there. The house had been owned by a lot of people, but no one knew what happened. But I know that those were the children that played with me. Those were my friends, locked up in that wall, in bone and flesh.